Hello to Enneagram Simply Explained, and today we are going to go over Enneagram of very controversial nature, and this is Enneagram 8. Now, Enneagram 8 is a very complex Enneagram, but it's rather simple to explain. We will go over some points. We will go over the passion, aka the sin of Enneagram 8. We will go over the island metaphor, where we see what the role in that island plays as. We will look into their defense mechanism, and we will also generally come with a few archetypes, or at least ways in which they usually react. So I guess it's better to just get started. Now, first of all, the passion, aka this sin of Enneagram 8. And this is lust. Now, this isn't just sexual gratification, although it's a part of lust. This is also other forms of concrete pleasures, which include indulgence in food, drugs, as well as intense experiences, going dangerous places, just living life. And this lust is incorporated with the need for freedom. Enneagram 8 wants complete freedom to do what they want when they want. So they have this tremendous willpower to get what they want when they want it. And this willpower can be activated in different means, of course. Some subtypes will be more actively vocal than others. So, it depends. So, yeah, lust is not the same as gluttony in this sense. Because with gluttony, with Enneagram 7, I won't go into that type very deeply, but with Enneagram 7, gluttony is basically indulgence in every area of living, mostly the intellectual. So gluttony is basically like being interested and hyper focused on one thing, and then another thing, and another thing. So they switch their interest and indulgence often. They find sort of like this fun in the challenge, and so yeah, this makes gluttony intellectual compared to lust, which is purely for immediate pleasures, so and concrete pleasures. So with Enneagram 8, when they gamble or when they do things like that out of hedonism, this hedonism is usually formed as a place of compulsive need to have something to do. Well, with gluttony, it's more so, oh yeah, I indulge in this intellectual field or this concrete field because I want to. So we have the core passion and sin out of the way. So then we have our next segment, the island metaphor. This metaphor is applicable for all gut types. And this basically means that Enneagram 1, Enneagram 8, and Enneagram 9 all have the specific location as a part of their metaphor. In the case of Enneagram 8, they act as a tradesman. And what it means to be a tradesman is that you go to a person and then you trade resources with that person. It's either like, let's say, if Enneagram 1, which is the farmer, produces something, Enneagram 8 will trade some of the resources from that farmer with resources from another farmer from a different place, or at least resources from other things that they picked up. And this tradesman mentality reflects a deeper nature of Enneagram 8, which is that they view the responses and the givings of people as like a contract. So basically, with Enneagram 8, their justice system, their internal system, is derived of this thing. If you give me this amount of that, I will give you this amount of what I have. If you take what I have, I will take what you have. It's a pretty simple like back and forward mentality. But this also means that in some cases, this tradesman mentality can be a bit exaggerated. So in some instances, if they're in a good mood, if you give them a bag of potatoes, they will give you twice as much carrots. But in another exaggerated mood that's bad, if you take, uh, let's say, a bag of many carrots from the Enneagram 8, they will take twice as much potatoes. So it's important to keep that in mind. It's not like they actively have this desire to just take. They're very focused on fairness. And with this focus on fairness, they can be a bit brute. They can be a bit like steady. And because of this steadiness and because of this will, Enneagram 8 usually can come across as a bit, how do you put this? A bit too fair oriented. They not fair, fair minded oriented. Like they want to make sure that everything is fair and appropriate in the terms of trade. Um, and so with this, and this brings us to our next segment. With this focus on trading, trading resources, communication, etc., there is a inclination to a socialistic mentality. And what this means is that it's not necessarily that they vote politically for a socialist party. You have people like Trump who are as far from socialistic as possible. But what it means is, in the case of Enneagram 8, it represents their mentality of everyone should have equal amounts of power. Everyone should have equal amount of resources. You should not take too much, but you should not be given too little. And this mentality usually makes it so that the power dynamics for an Enneagram 8 usually looks like this. Those who are weaker than me and have less, they need to have more. I need to protect them. Those who have more than me and are in higher position, they need to be devalued and someone needs to take from them. And this mentality usually makes it so that Enneagram 8s are very focused on keeping everything equal. And with this socialistic mentality, it includes the need to take down capital and like anti-capitalism, which isn't true for all Enneagram 8s, but for the usual Enneagram 8s, the idea of this institution or authority who takes all these resources for themselves, it doesn't apply well to them. They dislike it. So they want to change it so that there is no higher authority that takes all the wealth, and they rather want to give it equally amongst every person. So Enneagram 8 is very, like I said earlier, very focused on justice. They're very focused on equality, that everyone has equal amounts of resources, equal amounts of power, and they generally try to enforce this just like how socialist nations try to enforce their beliefs and ideology in a very fast-forward way, which was a bit insensitive, which is another point with Enneagram 8. They're very insensitive, usually. So, so they can be, like I said, brute in their desire to enforce this mentality. So, we will go over to the next. The defense mechanism of Enneagram 8 is counter-introjection. And I'm going to explain it the simplest way I know of. So counter-introjection basically means that the input that you give them, they internalize for a second, then they spit out a response rather impulsively. So let's say you're angry at them. Okay, you're angry at an Enneagram 1. No, not Enneagram 1, Enneagram 8. Why are you angry at Enneagram 8? It might be because they, it may be because they drank too much soda. That's a, I don't know what better example I can give. But let's say they drank a bit too much soda, you get angry at them. Enneagram 8 will take that anger, partially process it, then they will spit out anger as well. And this again follows that tradesman's mentality, where it basically means you give me this thing, I put it back. And in the case of anger or conflict, which they usually don't tolerate like others initiating conflict. They like themselves initiating conflict, but not others. So what they respond to with others is that they try to let me think over this metaphor. They try to take that same energy right back at them, or maybe even a louder energy to put their point across. So Enneagram 8 is very reactive. If you put something to them, they will bring it back, maybe 2 times fold. And so Enneagram 8 is, yeah, very oriented to this. A few extra points besides the ones I just mentioned. Enneagram 8 is, how do I put this? It is a type who does not fully value authority. It doesn't mean that they can abandon authority completely. You have types like Self-Preservation 8, who is content with some authority, in some sense, as long as they have their own will. And we have the Social 8, who works around authority and tries to find cheat codes in it. You have the Sexual 8, who actually fucking hates authority. They will try to push authority away of everything they do. They don't want authority in their way at all. You usually find sexual aids as anarchists. It's a pretty common archetype. But yeah, basically, Enneagram 8 is kind of anti-authority in some places. And this follows my previous point on like the socialistic mentality, because they dislike the capital, like the owners who take all the money, and they don't want that person interrupting everything. They want everyone to have equal amounts of importance and value, and so that happens basically. There aren't many other talking points at this current moment, so I'm gonna call it a wrap up. Thank you for watching. Next week I will go more into depth about each and every Enneagram subtype. No, not Enneagram subtype. Enneagram 8 subtype. And before that, I will release videos about Enneagram 1 and Enneagram 9 that go in the same style as this one, with the island metaphor, inclinations, stuff like that. So yeah, see you.